the amount of people that are struggling out there because of these fucking billionaires, and they got us all arguing liberal and conservative. We got to stop doing that. Like, I am so tired of hearing about people going to bed worried about what's going to happen next week.
Bill Burr is a comedian that has, for a long time, kind of been associated with the kind of, like, manosphere sort of thing, you know, like he goes on Joe Rogan and stuff like that. But notably, unlike a lot of these other kind of manosphere types, he has not gone along with the kind of right-wing turn and culture war kind of stuff. I'm going to talk about this a little bit more later, but you know, that so many people just get so, like, in their head about this culture war stuff. And it's so, and it just totally poisons their brain. And it causes them to just totally flip on, like, everything that they've ever believed because they, like, get uncomfortable around trans people. And even, like, one of the most, I think the most sympathetic, like, normal person concern about trans folks is about trans folks in sports, right? I think that's one of the most sympathetic kind of things that you can imagine about just the general conversation about trans people. There were more people laid off last week just within the National Nuclear Security Administration than every single trans athlete in the NCAA combined. Okay, there were 325 people laid off at the National Nuclear Security Administration within the Department of Energy. There are 10 trans athletes in the NCAA, and not even all of those are trans women, which is the only one that people actually care about. Like, nobody cares about a trans man, right, competing in men's sports. That's just not a concern. Nobody cares about that. It's only trans women. And so who even knows how many of those 10 are trans women, right? And so the idea that you would, like, orient your entire political worldview around this social conservatism is so befuddling to me because, because it just doesn't make sense, right? I mean, this is to the extent that I even grant that it's a problem, we're talking about 10 people out of thousands, tens of thousands. How many NCAA athletes are there? There's a lot, right? 325 people just at the National Nuclear Security Administration. There are thousands of other federal workers across the country. People, and like, frankly, it's a bigger deal. Somebody losing their job just without any other ramifications. It's a bigger deal when somebody loses their job than it is that a trans person competes in a basketball game, right? Like, that's just a bigger deal, okay? At least to me. And so, and I have always believed that, even as a social conservative. I am not socially conservative anymore. I used to be. Even as I was, I didn't know anything about politics, like, as recently as 2014, and I started trying to learn about politics, and I was almost immediately convinced of the economic arguments for kind of the left, and it took me a lot longer to, like, lose my social conservatism. So I voted for Bernie Sanders even as I believed that abortion and gay marriage should be illegal. Why? Because even when I thought the government should stop gay people from getting married, it was more important to me that people get health care than my queasiness with homosexuals. Okay? I no longer care about gay marriage. Obviously, I think gay marriage should be legal now, and it's, that's kind of it doesn't make sense to me anymore why somebody would be against gay marriage. But, like, look, I used to be there. But even then, like, I did not care about it as much as people having healthcare, as people having good wages, as people having jobs, right? And so it's just so ridiculous that so many people have lost their ever-loving mind over this cultural stuff. People living their lives in ways that make you uncomfortable. Bill Burr has not gone down that rabbit hole, and he continues to be incredibly based. And here's this clip where he talks about billionaires. where he talks about billionaires on his podcast from last week.
The amount of people that are struggling out there because of these fucking billionaires, and they got us all arguing liberal and conservative. We got to stop doing that. Like, I am so tired of hearing about people going to bed worried about what's going to happen next week. There is so much fucking money in this country, and there's so much work being done, you know. And if you work a full fucking week at a job, you should be able to pay your fucking rent. You shouldn't have to go out and get another fucking job and still be struggling. It's bad for the country, because then the kids don't see their parents and they're not getting the upbringing that they need. It's so fucking, these fucking billionaires, they need to be put down. You know, like fucking rabid dogs. They're like rabid with fucking greed and just going out and just dividing everybody. You know, just the fucking epitome of this time right now. Like how divisive we are, that, like, you know, the Gulf of Mexico is now called the Gulf of America, and people get excited. Like, how the does that help your wallet? It's an empty gesture, and then it's also like a racist gesture. Like, that's the white guy that's him saying F Mexicans without saying it. You know, like, who has a fucking problem with Mexicans? Like, what is the real problem? This is just such an ugly fucking time. Yeah, that just sucks. That sucks.
Hey, 5 seconds, just wanted to say that this is only possible because of our donors. If you want to see more of this, then consider donating yourself at tvlr.fm/donate.
I mean, wow, that is exactly on point from Bill Burr. And Brendan in the chat says there are more billionaires in this cabinet than there are trans athletes in the whole country. I mean, that's crazy. Like, how do you care more about trans athletes than the fact that at the inauguration of, there has never been a higher concentration of wealth, probably in the history of the world, than there was at the inauguration of Donald Trump. And you care more about trans athletes? Like, that's crazy. That's crazy. You have lost your mind. You have lost your mind. And yes, billionaires should not exist. Absolutely. Bill Burr is a little bit more extreme. I think we should just take their wealth from them. I think that we should just, every dollar over $999 million should be confiscated at a 100% tax rate. I'm a moderate. I'm a moderate, because it's not good for society. I mean, just, you know, we can talk about, oh, does Elon Musk, does he deserve to have $400 billion? Maybe, maybe not. I think no. I think it's ridiculous to believe that Elon Musk deserves or he earned $400 billion. The people at his company earned $400 billion, and he just has it. But even if you believe that he deserves $400 billion, it's not good for society that one man can have so much power without a democratic consensus to give him that power, right? I mean, he just, you know, like it or not, like the results of the election or not, Elon Musk basically just bought this presidency himself with, while his net worth increased, right? That is insane. Nobody should have that level of power based on their economic status. It's not good for, I mean, look at Bill Gates, what Bill Gates did to education in this country with all of his, accountability for teachers and standardized testing and all this kind of stuff. Just totally set education in this country back for a generation. But why? Because he was a billionaire and he had money to throw around and he had an idea. He thought he was better than all the teachers in the country. And so he decided that he was going to change the course of education in this country for a generation just because he could, not because he had exhibited any sort of expertise or prowess in this field just because he had the money to do it. And he did it, and then he commissioned a study to observe the results of his experiments in education. And guess what? The study that he commissioned said, oh, wow, Bill, you've really screwed it up. You've really done a bad thing here. You've screwed up education. You have negatively impacted thousands of students, thousands of teachers, thousands of communities. And why did he, just because he has $1 billion, it's not good for society that Bill Gates has that much freaking money. It is not good for society that Elon Musk has that much freaking money. And so there was a comment saying your partner made a ridiculous statement a couple of weeks ago saying that nobody should be able to acquire more than $1 trillion. I think you meant $1 billion. And yes, I don't know who said that a couple of weeks ago, but I agree with that. Both of us agree with that, Adam and myself. And then you say, if that was the case, there would be no NVIDIA. That is just so stupid. That is so stupid. Who is the CEO of NVIDIA? Is that like a Microsoft thing? Is that a Microsoft thing? Jensen Huang. Jensen Huang. What is Jensen Huang's, wow, he was born in 1993. Jensen Huang's net worth. His net worth is $118 billion. Do you think that he would not have created NVIDIA if he could only have $999 million? Like, people are not only motivated by money. It's ridiculous. It's so stupid. It is so stupid. People are motivated by all sorts of things, by caring about something, which is why, labor lawyers working for the NLRB, every single one of them could leave the NLRB and make double or triple what they're making right now working for a management side labor law firm. But they don't, because they care, right? Because they care, and so they work at the NLRB. I think that's a more noble kind of thing. That you care about the NLRB, you care about workers, and so you're going to work at the NLRB instead of working for the boss. I think that's noble, and the idea that you're never going to get innovation if you don't allow people to collect $1 billion in wealth is stupid. It's stupid. You should be embarrassed for thinking that. It's so stupid. We got an interview with Natasha Ullman that we're going to play really quick, though. Adam, I don't know if you had anything else to say about the billionaire stuff.
Actually, I think I'll pass. Since we are recorded, and yeah, I think that's best for me to keep my thoughts to myself. I appreciate the segment. Appreciate the chat. Interesting characters in the chat, and I know, there are some folks who are bootlickers, for lack of a better term, and it's unfortunate because chances are, if you're listening to our show, you're probably not ever going to be a billionaire. And last I checked, folks didn't get $1 billion by looking out for everyday people. So,
yeah. And here's another. Mark also says in the chat, this guy wants to propel the U.S. into a depression we would never come out of. Here's a homework assignment for you, Mark. I want you to go and look up the period of the highest growth in the GDP, and then once you figure that period out, I want you to compare that to the periods where there was the most and least economic equality. Okay? So we've got two things we want to figure out in this homework assignment. What was the highest period of growth in the GDP? And what were the periods of highest and lowest wealth inequality? Okay? Maybe let's do that homework assignment. And for everybody that's not Mark, hold your ears so you don't hear this, because I don't want to spoil it for you. But the answer is the GDP, the value of everything produced in this country, grew by the largest percentage from like the 40s to the 60s, okay, during the New Deal era. The New Deal era also saw the least wealth inequality in the history of the country. We had the least amount of inequality during that era. We had fewer people than ever making extraordinary amounts of money, and we had more people than ever making a reasonable amount of money. Okay? So do with that what you will.
You just saw a clip from the Valley Labor Report. We are live every Saturday morning from 9:30 a.m. till 12:30 p.m. And we pride ourselves on keeping all of our content free to everybody so that we can talk to as many working folks as possible. If you support the work that we're doing, you think that it's important, you think that it's good, then consider making a monthly contribution to the project, and you can do that on our website, tvlr.fm.